It is possible to extract power straight from the ground. No chemical batteries, no wind turbines, and no solar panels. Just a wire, a pot, and a plant. An LED that is plugged into the soil will light up and remain lighted indefinitely. It functions at night. It functions indoors. When the grid fails, it functions. According to the energy sector, this is not feasible. They tell you that burning something or splitting an atom is the only way to produce power. However, biology doesn't agree. The tale of the living battery is told here. Furthermore, a self-growing grid is uncontrollable, which is why you pay a monthly electric bill rather than collecting voltage from your houseplants. The photosynthetic leak is the first. We must first dissect the inefficiencies of the natural world in order to comprehend the scope of what has been concealed from you. We learn in school that plants are flawless devices that effectively transform sunlight into energy. This is untrue. Plants are extremely leaky from an engineering standpoint. Photosynthesis begins when sunlight strikes a leaf. The plant uses the energy from the sun to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose or sugar. This is life's fuel. However, plants generate a lot more fuel than they can use. They produce too much. Up to 70% of the sugar is released by plants through their roots and into the surrounding soil, according to biological research from the University of Wageningen in the Netherlands. The biological waste stream is enormous. Instead, it appears to be a waste. It's actually a bribe. In order to draw bacteria, the plant pumps this sugar into the root zone, or rhizosphere. Microbes are being farmed. In return for eating the sugar, the bacteria break down the minerals in the soil so that the plant can absorb them. Under your feet, a minuscule symbiotic economy is taking place. However, the energy sector overlooks this forensic physics. Protons and electrons are released when bacteria digest glucose. It's a chemical process. These electrons are quickly taken up by oxygen or other soil molecules in a typical pot of dirt. Low-grade heat is the result of the energy loss. It is spent forever, dissipating into the earth. In actuality, this garbage is untapped potential energy. For generations, we have been using trillions of volts of squandered energy. Every garden, every woodland, every lawn is bleeding electricity. In order to construct power plants, we paved over it. This process is circumvented by the plant microbial fuel cell. The feast is interrupted. We can access the planet's basic metabolic rate by utilizing this leak. It transforms the plant into an active generator instead of a passive one. The bacterial circuit is number 2. There is no magic involved in the process of gathering this energy. Electrochemistry is what it is. In order for the plant microbial fuel cell to function, the soil must be artificially separated. In the natural world, bacteria's released electrons quickly discover oxygen. You have to make those electrons go a different route in order to produce power. You have to make them go through a wire. This is accomplished by dividing the soil into 2 separate zones. An aerobic zone with plenty of oxygen at the top and an anaerobic zone with none at the bottom. You can make a trap by putting an anode, or negative electrode, deep in the soil where there is no oxygen. The plant sugars are consumed by the bacteria, particularly by groups like Geobacter. They search for oxygen to release their electrons, but there isn't any. They search for the next best conductive surface as a result. They locate the anode. They physically connect themselves to it using tiny conductive nanowires that protrude from their bodies. Electrons are dumped onto the anode. The conductive substance has now trapped these electrons. They are unable to pass through the soil in order to reach the oxygen at the surface. The wire that is attached to the anode is the only route that is accessible. They race up the line, power your LED light as they go, and reach the cathode, the positive electrode that sits on the soil. At last, they come into contact with oxygen there, completing the process that results in pure water. Electricity is the movement of electrons from the deep soil to the surface. It isn't theoretical. The plant's metabolism produces measured, usable DC electricity. The electricity that emerges from your wall socket is the same. However, a live thing's digestion produces it. The engine is the bacteria. The fuel pump is the plant. The source is the sun. Instead than merely absorbing solar energy, this biological solar panel breaks it down. The material conspiracy is number 3. Most backyard experiments don't work because the wrong parts are used. It is not possible to just insert 2 copper nails into a potato. It is a self-consuming chemical battery. The plant dies from metal poisoning when the copper corrodes and the process ends. Microbial fuel cells found in plants are biological. It must endure for many years. It needs certain inert materials, which the typical consumer cannot obtain because the hardware shop does not carry them. The substance that creates this permanent carbon felt was found by Wageningen researchers. This substance is typically utilized in high-temperature insulation or welding blankets. It is biologically inert, conductive, and non-corrosive. Above all, though, it has a huge surface area. Bacteria may colonize acres of microscopic space in just 1 square inch. Bacteria enter the soil when carbon felt is buried there. The fibers are coated by them. They connect themselves straight to the carbon. It turns into a biofilm. The engine is this biofilm. It doesn't corrode once it's developed. It never wears out. The bacteria pump electrons as long as the plant pumps sugar. Batteries comprised of rare earth materials like cobalt and lithium, which must be extracted, processed, and eventually depleted, are essential to the energy sector. Carbon is used in biology by the plant fuel cell. As the battery ages, its strength increases. The wire comes next. Copper is not used. Titanium wire is required. The plant will be poisoned by copper corrosion. Silver will become tarnished. Titanium doesn't react. Without destroying biology, it conducts power. However, you might be able to locate titanium wire at your neighborhood electrical supply store. You won't. It's a niche industrial product. An obstacle to entry is the supply chain gap. It prevents the typical tinkerer from having access to the technology. The industry controls the application by controlling the materials. They are aware that people will write off the technology as a scam if they try using copper and don't succeed. The difference between a scientific experiment and a revolution is having access to the appropriate materials. The species details come in at number 4. Not every factory has an electrician on staff. You will not succeed if you attempt this with a succulent or a cactus. They develop too slowly. They pump insufficient amounts of sugar. The power plant's output is determined by the physiology of the plant. You need a wetland plant, one that has adapted to survive in soggy soil with little oxygen. The voltage is unlocked by this biological key. Salt marshes are where Spartina grass is most effective, according to research. The best choices for home growers are cypress, the umbrella papyrus, or spalm, the peace lily. These facilities use hydraulic pumps to move large amounts of sugar and water. Carbonfeld is rapidly colonized by their vigorous root systems. Most importantly, they do well in anaerobic environments. The bottom of the pot needs to be oxygen-free for the fuel cell to function. Power will be cut off if oxygen reaches the bottom electrode and electrons move to it rather than the wire. The majority of plants would decay and perish. However, specialized tissue known as arona evolved in wetland plants. In anaerobic soil, this tissue functions as a snorkel, transferring oxygen from leaves to roots and sustaining their life. Voltage potential is driven by this natural process. It separates the oxygen-rich root interior from the oxygen-poor earth. You are in charge. The electrical characteristics of botany are not explained by the industry. They classify plants based on appearance rather than ability. You can choose the ideal generator for your biological power plant by choosing the appropriate species. The 2-4-hour cycle is number 5. There is a catastrophic fault in solar panels. When the sun sets, they cease to function. Expensive batteries are required to store power for the night while operating a solar-powered home. The green energy revolution's hurdle is this storage issue. It maintains our reliance on the grid. This issue is not present in the plant microbial fuel cell. It functions in the absence of light. Indeed, some research indicates that it performs better at night. Given that photosynthesis requires sunlight, how is this possible? Because starch is stored by the plant during the day. It produces sugar, which it then stores in its tissues. It breaks down the stored starch at night and keeps releasing sugar into the soil to nourish its bacterial partners. The microorganisms are not sleeping. They are constantly consuming and releasing electrons. It is a power source for basic loads. It offers a flat, constant power line. This stability is really beneficial. A Tesla Powerwall is not necessary if you have a system that produces power continuously. Lead-acid batteries are not necessary. The storage is found in the soil. The entire battery industry, which is predicated on the idea that renewable energy is sporadic, is put to the test by this. According to grid operators, nuclear and coal are necessary for dependability. They claim that renewable energy sources are too erratic. The plant battery demonstrates that nature has already found a solution to the storage issue. The capacitor is the plant. The battery is the earth. We do away with the necessity to mine lithium by combining energy production with biological storage. We do away with the necessity of large, hazardous battery banks. We design a power source that pulses with an unceasing rhythm, day or night, summer or winter, reflecting the steadiness of the forest itself. The military interest comes in at number 6. Check to see whether the military is utilizing any technology that the mainstream media claims is unfeasible or ineffective. Classified research on jungle batteries was funded by the U.S. Army in the 2000s. Modern warfare presented them with a logistical problem. Batteries. Power is required for cameras, listening devices, and sensors that are dropped into the forest. It is costly and risky to send soldiers to change batteries. They required a long-lasting, low-maintenance power supply. It dawned on them that the jungle floor was a battery. They accessed the natural disintegration of the forest by lowering sensors equipped with microbial fuel cell spikes into the mud. The sensors would use living roots and decaying leaves to detect enemy movement. The technology was effective. It demonstrated the viability of low-voltage, high-endurance biological power. However, it did not translate to the civilian sector. Like many military technology, it was not packaged for domestic use. It was stored in a file. A battery that never needs to be changed is detrimental to the economy. Consumables are essential to the consumer market. Energizer and Duracell depend on your return. The mission is essential to the military. The technology was created once the goal was surveillance. However, consuming is the civilian mission. Thus, the technology was repressed. Batteries from the 19th century are what we utilize. The military has mapped the Earth's electrical potential, yet they are aware of the grid's vulnerability. They are aware that biology is the ultimate backup power. The voltage stacking is number 7. The voltage is too low, according to critics who typically come from the fossil fuel lobby. One pot produces between 0.5 and 0.7 volts. A refrigerator cannot be operated on it. They are correct, too. A refrigerator cannot be operated on a fern. However, this debate serves as a diversion. It's a straw man meant to make you reject technology. Heavy appliance power is not the focus of the revolution. It has to do with supplying energy for the Internet of Things. It has to do with illumination. It has to do with stacking. To boost voltage, batteries are stacked in series. The similar method can be used to stack plant pots. 5 to 7 volts can be obtained by connecting 10 pots in series. A phone can be charged with that. A bank of LED lights can be powered by that. That is sufficient to power a microcontroller. In order to demonstrate this, researchers in the Netherlands used the nearby grass to illuminate a roadside sign. There was already grass. The land was there previously. They transformed the landscaping into a power plant by merely burying the mesh. Increase this scale. Thousands of square feet of soil make up a skyscraper's green roof. There are millions in a rice paddy. These could produce megawatts of electricity without using fossil fuels if they were covered with carbon mesh. Without losing the crop, it converts agriculture into energy production. It enables a farmer to simultaneously harvest power and rice from the same field. The argument against scale is the same as the argument against voltage. A plant is weak on its own. A field is a power plant when combined. The carbon negative truth is number 8. We are informed that net zero technology is necessary. We are informed that we must cease contributing carbon to the atmosphere. The energy industry is fixated on cutting emissions. The microbial fuel cell found in plants is not net zero. It has a carbon negative value. The plant absorbs CO2 from the atmosphere to form its body as it grows. A portion of that carbon is stored by the soil's microbes. Pollution is not released during the production of power. It generates pure water and a small amount of CO2, which the plant above instantly absorbs. It is a device that powers the lights and purifies the air. It is a biological plant battery. It expands. It multiplies. When it splits, it composts. It is the only method of producing energy that genuinely complies with natural rules. It is not being subsidized because of this. A technology that heals the world for free does not have a lobby. For mining businesses, there are no contracts. Pipelines don't exist. This technology is detrimental to an economy that relies on carbon throughput since it is carbon negative. The 9th is do-it-yourself building. This is something you can construct. A lab is not necessary. A bucket is necessary. However, in order to achieve the necessary anaerobic circumstances, you must adhere to the procedure precisely. The build preparation is shown here. For the wire, drill a hole close to the bottom of a plastic bucket. Later, tightly seal it to the anode. Place a piece of carbon felt on the ground. Put your titanium wire through it. This is at the very bottom, the matrix. Pour muddy, moist soil with a little amount of compost into the bucket halfway. To get rid of air bubbles, pack it down. The anaerobic zone is this, the divider. Put some peat moss or sand on top. As a result, oxygen cannot descend the cathode. Another piece of carbon felt should be laid down. Attach another titanium wire to it. This is located in the top layer. The vegetation. Plant your peace lily or marsh grass after filling the remaining space with soil. Water. Keep it moist. To conduct the ions, it needs to remain moist. You will initially receive 0 volts. The microorganisms require time. The felt must be colonized. The bow film must be constructed. The incubation period is roughly 2 weeks. The multimeter then leaps. It begins modestly. However, you have a permanent generator once the bow film is built. Attach an LED's top positive wire and bottom negative wire. It will shine. It's the machine's spirit. A potted plant is an example of a machine that has been refined over 1 billion years. It is a power plant, a carbon scrubber, a water pump, and a solar collector. Plants have been used as decorations. They have been eaten by us. However, we have hardly ever considered them as technological partners. The microbial fuel cell demonstrates that additional coal or nuclear fusion are not the solutions to our energy crisis. The mud is where you can find them. The industry wants you to think that there is a shortage of energy. They want you to think it's difficult to produce. The LED lighting in the pot disproves their claim that you need them. The resources are accessible. The science is open to the public. The vegetation is ready. You can construct an earth-healing battery. The vitality of your garden can illuminate your house. One pot at a time, you can choose not to participate in the grid. Don't allow them to keep you in the dark about what grows there. Please hit the bell and subscribe if this video opened your eyes. The products they sell are given preference by the algorithm. We prefer the truths they conceal. What they attempted to remove is preserved by each like and share. The subsequent vault opens.